All right, we're gonna have a little talk about this stimulus. Let me get myself straight. Feel free to share the video. Please feel free to provide your comments. And I hope your Saturday is going pretty good. I know mine is, and I have some thoughts and concerns about the stimulus, and even a solution that I believe that we could all get behind one way or another. I don't do any rehearsing or anything like that. I kind of just go with what my heart feels and says. I did write some numbers down because we're going to talk about some numbers today, just to put things in perspective of what we're dealing with. So I will get myself together, but by all means, share your comments, share your thoughts. We can talk about them openly and freely. It is all good. The more comments that we receive, the better. And yeah, I don't really fully expect everyone to just believe what I'm saying, or just to take what I'm saying as the truth. It's just me sharing some ideas that I have with everyone about the stimulus, give you some background on a few things, and then just let you know like how all this kind of originated. So if you can hear me pretty well, give me a big old thumbs up. I got my laptop going because I don't like to miss out on any comments or anything like that. So let me go ahead and get started real quick. Let me give you guys the background of where my mind is at right now concerning the stimulus package. So yesterday, I made a post online, and let me find this post real quick so I can read it to you. All right, here it goes. So the post that I made yesterday, I said that the stimulus package will certainly do one thing, right? It will certainly do one thing, and that will be to dampen the overall growth of the economy. So to give you some background about why I know for a fact that to be true, is that when you're printing money out of thin air, right? When the Fed is just printing money out of thin air, it creates a force, a mechanism called inflation. Now, some of you may already know what inflation is. Some of you may have an idea of what inflation is. But for those of you that don't know what inflation is, the bottom line is that inflation causes higher prices, increases the demand for credit, which benefits the lenders. So it hurts the borrowers that are out there. Inflation is a general increase in prices. It's not just gonna like happen overnight. It's a slow process, but it's a process that can be reversed, but not when we're continually printing out more money. It it causes the decrease in buying power of your dollar. So to give you to give you an idea, I remember in the mid '90s, and we would be able to go and like fill up our vehicle, get a king size Snickers and a 20-ounce soda for $20, and then still have still have change in our pocket once we leave the gas station. But man, you can't even get a half a tank of gas unless you're driving like one of those real small vehicles these days, because the price of gas has gone up. The price of Snickers has certainly gone up. And I just spent $2.50 on a single 20-ounce Coke that I have here. That's all based on inflation and the rising cost of goods based on the buying power of the dollar. So that's inflation in a nutshell. It is an economic principle that that it's just the way that it is. What's up, David? It's just the way that it is. That is the cause of printing out fiat currency that the U.S. dollar is that it's going to result in inflation. There's no way around that when you're printing out that type of money. But there's a solution to that, and I'm gonna talk about that too. Hey, what's up, Sean? It is free money. The stimulus is free money, and we're gonna talk about that too. So, yeah. So provide your comments, your feedback. I welcome them all, because we got a lot of space to cover these days on this Saturday afternoon. We got a lot of territory. So right now I'm finishing up about inflation, right? And one of the comments on that particular post that I made, and let me read it to you. So a friend of mine, Mr. Damon Brody, he asked about where was my compassion. And hey, what's going on, Austin? He asked me about where was my my compassion in this whole thing. And compassion is there's no free anything. That is right, Tracy. 100%. There's no free anything. So my friend Damon Brody was asking me about where my passion was in this whole thing, compassion. And I mean, he and I we've had conversations about economics and policies and all of those things before. So he asked me that question, right? So I know he meant no ill will behind that. And he did also say that he understand people not having money to eat or pay bills. He's absolutely correct on that too. This COVID pandemic it's impacting us all, and there are certainly a lot of people out there, even to this day, that's still being impacted by COVID. So by no stretch of the imagination does my bringing up an economic principle indicate a lack of compassion that I have towards the situation, because that's not the same. That's not the case at all. You're right, Tracy. There is no free anything. Everything comes with the price, especially when it is a result of the government or the Fed, which is not associated with the government at all. It is a private organization that has no relationship to the U.S. government at all. People need to understand that. So when the Fed is creating this fake money out of thin air, everyone's going to pay, either short term or long term. Everyone's going to pay, and that's absolutely true. So that's to my friend, Mr. Damon Brody, right? And so I really respect him asking me that question, and I'm hoping that my response provided some clarity on that. And then another friend of mine, Cedric Ellington, he said that, you know, people do need that money. I'm seeing it daily. You know, what would you purpose, my good man? You know, asking for what would I feel is a viable solution, which I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about that too. And then another young lady, her name is LaShawn. She mentioned that cryptocurrency and Bitcoin are the causes of inflation, but that's not the case, for various reasons. What we're seeing now is a culmination of events that started way back in the day when the Bretton Woods Act was signed, and essentially it took gold away as being the backing force behind the U.S. dollar. So what that meant is that the result of that was the slow decline of the U.S. dollar. So not going to get into all the details behind the Bretton Woods Act. That's something that you can certainly read. But cryptocurrency does not have any effect on the economy as far as what we're seeing now as it relates to inflation. And it certainly didn't have any impact or effect on the direct devaluation of the dollar. Is the buying power of the dollar declining? Sure, absolutely. But until cryptocurrencies become mainstream and adopted by all, then no, it does not have any effect. Can you make money with foreign exchange trades by pairing the U.S. dollar with any kind of cryptocurrency? Absolutely, you absolutely can. But that does not mean that cryptocurrencies is the result or leading to what we see for inflation. That's just not the case. Those are apples and oranges, two completely different aspects of things. So it's certainly not the same. So that's the background, that's the backdrop within the whole entire thing. So I talked about inflation, talked about the situation behind COVID. Another thing that has me, and I took some notes, another thing that has me concerned is there's a concept called hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is just one of those fancy terms, essentially where normal rates of inflation are occurring so fast that it quickly drives down the value of any kind of currency. For example, there are a few companies, there are a few countries that have experienced hyperinflation. Some of those companies, some of those countries are Zimbabwe, Argentina, Germany, and Venezuela. Just these are things like in recent years. And you can read about like where the economies are for these countries and other countries that are out there that have gone through hyperinflation. Now, I'm not saying that our economy is in hyperinflation, because it's not. I'm not saying that our economy will experience hyperinflation. That might not be the case, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on, because the national debt as of this year so far is $28 trillion. $28 trillion. That is a lot of money. $28 trillion. Now, in recent times, in recent months and days, People, they throw out, millions, billions, and trillions just like it's like they're anywhere closely related when in actuality they're not related at all. They're nowhere close. It's apples, oranges, and strawberries. They're nowhere closely related at all. So what do I mean by that? And what is this big difference between millions, billions, and trillions? Okay, so let's have a little fun. We're gonna have a little fun. If I were to ask you how big is $1 trillion, like what would you say? Like how big is like $1 trillion? Like it sounds big. It sounds closer to cajillion or gazillion, but like how big is $1 trillion? Like do you really know like how big or how much money is $1 trillion? I will say this, when it comes down to $1 trillion, since the known world, there's really only been, I want to say, 3 people, and there's really no way to like confirm or deny this because it happened so long ago that there were like 3 people that were, I guess you can say, trillionaires. This is way back in the day. There are no trillionaires in present times. So, do you really know how much is $1 trillion? A lot of people don't. So we're gonna play a little game. I'm gonna give you an idea. Like this is gonna like let you know like how big like $1 trillion is. I got my notes up there so I can get this right. Okay, so the first thing, the first way you can see like how big $1 trillion is. So if you like stacked up like $1 trillion $1 bills like on top of each other, like from the ground all the way up, if you were to stack $1 trillion up like that, it would be over 67,000 miles high. Yeah, it'll be over 67,000 miles high. All right, so check this out. If you were to place $1 trillion bills like side by side each other, like side by side, it would stretch beyond the sun. Yeah, so we're talking about like from the earth, it'll stretch all the way to the sun. Like if you put $1 trillion, lay them side by side, $1 trillion, all the way to the sun. All right. If you were to treat $1 trillion like laying a piece of tile, like on your floor, and if you were to put like a trillion tiles together, like you're like tiling your floor and all that kind of stuff, it would come out to over 1,000 square miles, which is bigger than the states of Rhode Island and Delaware combined. We're talking about $1 trillion. This is a crazy one. If you had $1 trillion and you spent $40 per second, it would take you almost 795 years to go broke. That's crazy. That's crazy. $40 a second. It would take you 795 years to go broke. Come on, man. So when we're like freely throwing around this term $1 trillion, we're not talking about a small amount of money at all. So here it is, to tie it all together. If we're printing this fake money out of thin air and pumping it into the economy, there's no way that inflation is not gonna happen. Now, I'm not saying that the stimulus money is not needed, because it is. COVID is here. Families are struggling to get through, and families do need the money as a short-term fix. Certainly not anything long-term. So we have this $1.9 trillion stimulus package that was passed. And again, we're talking about $1 trillion, which is a million multiplied by a million, or a 1 followed by 12 zeros. Like we're not talking about anything small. Now, when it comes down to the stimulus package, this $1.9 trillion, look, I'm just one person. That's a lot of money, as we've already discussed, and there's gonna be all kind of ways that you can spend that money and that you can allocate that money. So this is not gonna be just an end-all be-all solution to that, because there are different ways that we can do that. I will say this though, there are a few areas within the dang stimulus package that was passed that I got a problem with. So of those things, and I wrote them down. I even wrote them down because I was just amazed at how silly this was. So I had to actually write them down. Okay. These are things within the stimulus package, a few of them, that are quote unquote essential. Check this out. These are essential things. $1.5 million allocated to the Segway International Bridge that connects New York and Canada. All right. $50 million allocated for family planning, like Planned Parenthood and things like that. $852 million to AmeriCorps. $200 million is allocated to the Institute of Museum Library Services. $270 million is allocated to the National Endowment of the Arts and Humanities. And $1.5 billion is allocated to Amtrak. So if the stimulus package is for the economy, I get it. It's to help families, absolutely. It is to help businesses, small businesses, absolutely. Then what do these things, and there are many other things within the bills themselves, within the package itself, what does that have to do with COVID? What does that have to do with helping families? What am I missing? What am I missing right here with this right here? And then we go back and forth about giving families $1,400 per person within the household, and then $300 for each child. But yet we have these type of things that families don't care about right now, that no one really cares about right now when it comes down to COVID and helping families out. No one's caring about this stuff. What does this got to do with COVID? What does this got to do with helping unemployment? What does it got to do with helping the homeless? What does this have to do with putting food on tables? What is this? We're talking about millions of dollars right here, but yet there's a big deal about giving families $1,400 per adult, $300 per child. So if you have a family of two adults, that's $2,800 plus a kid, that's $3,100. Okay, what is that? What is that gonna last? Like how long is that gonna last? A month, 2 months, 3 months? Really, how long is that gonna last? And then guess what? It's gonna repeat the vicious cycle all over again. This type of money that I've talked about, and like I said, there are other categories, but these are just the ones that really just stuck out to me. Like if the smart people are saying, right? If the smart people are saying that, and here's one of my solution points. if the smart people are saying or anticipating, like, put your money where your mouth is. If these smart people are saying that if we put up X, Y, and Z measures to get in front of COVID, then let's just say if they're saying that it takes 6 months, right? 6 months. That would be considered an emergency, right? I certainly consider what we're going through a personal finance emergency. So there's this thing called an emergency fund. An emergency fund, right? An emergency fund is 3 to 6 months expenses of things that are categorized as emergency, right? Okay. So if we're talking about 3 or 6 months, I'll meet them halfway. Let's just say 5 months. 5 months. If these smart people are saying that we can get in front of COVID in 3 months, 4 months, right? We'll give them some grace, and we'll go to 6 months. 6 months. Let's just keep it easy. 6 months. Why not give each family enough money where they can fund, quote unquote, an emergency fund? And what amount of money would that be? All right, great question. I think that an easy $25,000 for each family, working or not, gets $25,000 off the top. Now, I just showed you $2-3 billion that's going to frivolous things. But yet we can put $25,000 in the bank accounts of everyone, every family, that can take them out 25, 2 to 5, no, up to 6 months. That can take them, that 25,000 can take them out to 6 months. If the smart people are saying, if we maintain what we're doing about COVID, wearing a mask, social distancing, all those kind of things, and we can get in front of COVID in 6 months by doing that, who wouldn't support that? Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't support that? I know that I would. And then there's this conversation about increasing minimum wage to $15 an hour, which I don't agree with. The numbers are already saying that if we do that it would cause, or it will result in about 1.5 million jobs lost. And I don't agree with that. I don't think that you can apply the peanut butter approach across the board just based on geographic areas. So, and this is what I mean by that. The cost of living in, let's just say, Seattle, Washington, is a heck of a lot higher than a place, just say, Jackson, Mississippi, where my good friend Andrell Harris lives. Which, if you are not following him or checking out the things that he puts out concerning trading, investing, and personal money management, I would suggest that you do that. Really, really brilliant guy. So those are two different geographical areas. And so the cost of living is lower in Jackson, Mississippi. So let's just say if this $15 an hour goes up, and if you're a business owner in Jackson, Mississippi, you won't be able to provide that $15 an hour to your employees. So that means that you're gonna have to fire some people. And then when you fire some people, that means that the individuals that are still there, they're gonna have to cover down on what they're working on. So now you have one person having to do the job of 2 and 3 people just to make up for the amount of employees that the business owner doesn't have. So I don't really agree with that at all. fiscally, it just doesn't make too much sense to me. But this is what I will do, and this is another solution that I've been thinking about. Just throwing the numbers out there, right? And I had to write down my notes because this one was kind of big. So I hope you like get in there for a second, right? And like strap yourself in. Now I do know that the numbers may have to be finessed a little bit. I might have to get my brackets right a little bit. We can work on this together as a team. Totally good with that. So this is my solution about not increasing the $15 an hour wage. This is my solution. I believe that for working individuals that make less than $60,000 a year, that they shouldn't pay any taxes. They should not pay any federal tax at all. Up to $60,000, pay no taxes. This is about 40% of the working population as of 2020, right? So that's where I would do. So what would we do with the rest of that? Just like we have a tiered tax system now, we can implement a tiered tax season with a flat tax. For example, let's just say from 60,000 to 100,000, you're paying 10%. 100,000 to 150,000, it's another 10%. And then 200,000 and over, it's another 10%. So if you're making $120,000, which that is a significant amount of money for any family, here it is, you're paying 10% from 60 to 100,000. And then because you got that 20,000 over, you're only paying another 10% on the 20,000. So I would certainly get behind something like that. Now, granted, we may have to finagle and massage the brackets and whatnot, but I think that is 100% doable. The reason being is that it keeps people working, which that stimulates the economy. That's a positive thing. It keeps more money in people's pocket, which now that they're not paying federal income tax, they can do things like income shifting techniques. They can do things like lowering their taxes. They can do things by like creating business income. These are all things that people can do. If you don't know what income shifting is, send me a message. We could talk about what income shifting is, but it's one of the most powerful personal money management strategies out there, where it's created thousands of millionaires just by following the income shifting strategies that are out there. But then you have this thing, because we know that every 4 years, we get this new president with these brand new ideas, these, good idea fairies. And there's always a discussion about raising the minimum wage. Well, instead of raising the minimum wage, we can make adjustments to the tax brackets and raise that tax bracket. So like if we're dealing with this example where it's $60,000, we can raise the tax bracket to like just to say $65,000, so that we can include a larger percentage of the individuals that are falling behind as far as their earnings go. Because the last thing that we want to do is increase minimum wage, which is going to increase the unemployment rate, which is going to absolutely destroy small businesses, and we don't want any of those. So the solution, again, up to 60,000, pay no taxes. Come up with a tiered system where you're paying 10% of each of those tax brackets until you've paid taxes, federal income taxes, on all of your money. That's what I would do. Now,